Hey YouTube, it's Lily Ringlet here, and it's day 27 of trying to learn BSL. Now, I'm afraid to say I kind of slipped the ball a little bit. Basically, I was dog sitting for a couple of days and then have kind of come back home and collapsed in a ball of panting, heaping mess. And so I've had a week of doing no new signs. Yes, that's right, a week. It is kind of down to being away from home for like 4 of them and then kind of coming back and just collapsing. But it is annoying and frustrating, but I am going to try and catch up. So basically, the problem I had is that I've been using flash sticks and the reminder sheets, and the reminder sheets are, they're pretty boring, they're dull, they're hard to learn off of, it's frustrating. Whereas the flash sticks are brilliant, but only when they're kind of at home. If you're trying to learn elsewhere, you've got the frustrating thing of, well, you can't stick them around the house and you're kind of away from that constant reminder. So it is frustrating and annoying and a pain. So that's kind of why it's happened. And then you come back and you're kind of deflated from it all, and you kind of go into a spiral of, oh, but I've already messed up. Oh. So I am kind of getting back on the ball. But during that time, it was interesting because I spent more time learning about the culture that's kind of within the BSL community and the deaf community than naturally the language. And I think they're both aspects are just as important as each other. So I've been working with BSL Zone, who are sending me some amazing responses to these questions that I set them for this interview, and I'm really chuffed with what's come out, and I've kind of fallen in love with their service. They're basically this incredible kind of outlet for people who are deaf, no BSL, and they get the opportunity to make programs, to interview, to cover interesting stories, to cover learning things. So it's great because it's really inclusive. They aim their programs not just at people who are deaf, but at those who can also hear. So there's this kind of really interesting inclusivity about what they're doing. So quite chuffed. And it is proving really interesting for me because while it's difficult to try and pick up some of the signs, it's good for me to work on the ones that I already do know and picking them out. While they're very few and far between at the moment, it is nice every so often to go, I know that sign! And I often do scroll back just to make sure it was what I thought it was. Often it is, but sometimes it isn't. So I am enjoying that aspect, and the more that I learn about it, the more I think I'm becoming quite passionate about why we should learn it more. Because even though me and t'other half fully hearing, I am using it to communicate with him when he's playing video games, or just when we're down the street, or there's so many different times that we've used it. We were in a pub and I asked him if he wanted a drink and he said yes. And I said I'd go and get it for him. It's just those kind of things. It's a really loud, noisy environment, and we're able to have this kind of conversation. And it was really interesting that we could do that. I keep saying really interesting, but it is. And I love it. It's a world of its own that has this very British subcultureness about it that we're missing. And it's quintessentially British and amazing. And yet most of the population are missing that kind of whole aspect. So I'm going to be kind of learning more after this project ends. I've actually even signed up to be an ambassador for Flash Sticks. I've fallen in love with their product. As someone who is dyslexic, it's a fantastic product for someone like me who does struggle with the more conventional way of learning. So I definitely will kind of be like, flash ticks, but it's my own opinion. If it ever wasn't my opinion, I'd be kind of very open and upfront about it, but I've kind of found an outlet, a learning outlet as well, and I love that because it's something that you can't ever not learn something new. Just like the English language, that we're having new words added to the dictionary. There's always going to be new words that are going to be added to sign language, whether it's because of what's happening, whether it's because we're talking so much about a certain subject, or whether it's because of inventions like social media. So I do like that, but at the same time I like the fact that it's not conventional language, which I always struggle with. I'm not gonna lie. Sign language is one of those things that I do feel I pick up a lot easier, and I kind of enjoy it. It's very therapeutic to kind of feel like you can convey what you're saying with not just your voice anymore. You can do it with your hands. And as somebody who's always kind of been handsy, it's a great way of actually containing my hands, because now they kind of start trying to sign the language, the actual sign, rather than just being very sporadic. And I know it's going to get worse, because it did last time. I ended up having conversations where I just started stopping halfway through a sentence because I was like, and I'd kind of get picked up on the fact that I'd kind of stopped talking and just continued signing, and half the people in the room didn't understand sign language. So I've got to make sure that doesn't happen again. But at the same time, I think it was that because I was going to the lessons once a week and they were really intensive, and then the girl who ran the club was kind of coming and we were gossiping like 3 days a week, that it kind of kept it up. And that's the one thing I don't have this time, is to have somebody who's as passionate. And I think that's the hardest thing as well, in that I do want classes, but I know the difficulty of having classes. I know this is really rambly, but it's so hard because I know that in traditional BSL sign language classes, in traditional sign language classes, the pupils do not talk. They kind of get told signs in a very silent manner. I don't work well in silence. I know it sounds really weird trying to learn BSL and saying to people you don't work in silence, but I don't. I like having lots of different bits of information coming in together to kind of store it in my memory. So it would be hard, and it's expensive. So at the moment it's something I kind of can't afford. I wish I could, but if you have £500 to spare and want to invest it in me learning sign language, great. But I doubt there's anyone there that would do that. So I'm going to catch up for that week lost. And at the end of this month, I'm going to try and do a video all the signs I've learnt, seeing how well they've actually sunk in. Which will be interesting, because they could be wrong. But until then, keep your eyes peeled, because hopefully tomorrow or Monday I'll have the interview of BSL Zone, which I highly recommend that you watch. I'll also be doing a follow-up on my blog about them, because I think they're a fantastic organisation. I've fallen in love with quite a few of their programmes as well, and I suggest that you check it out. So yeah, until then, I'll see you soon, and